What's up, everybody? Peter Exodus O'Coffer here for another episode of the Purple Manifesto, Prince, his life, his music, and his philosophy. So this episode we're doing his second album, Prince. Interesting cover here, kind of an afro, little long hair as well. Quintessential late 70s hairstyle. I couldn't do it as good as Prince, but I was probably in 6th grade and similar thing there, but never could and never will be able to pull that off like Prince. From here on out, I'll be referring to a book. I just want to drop it here, and an FYI for the big Prince fans out there, and it's called Prince, All the Songs, The Story Behind Every Track, and it's by Benoit, Benoit Clerc, Klerc. It's a very thick book, and it goes with each song. Clearly, he went back and got some of the notes, the track sheets from the different studios that Prince used during this time. Dwayne Tudor also did that. I read his first book on, I think, mainly Purple Rain, and I believe maybe Tudor did 1999 and Around the World in a Day, maybe in that first book. He has a second book that centers around the albums in the mid to late 80s. And I guess Tudor has now been hired by whoever owns it. I was going to say the estate, but I believe most of Prince's heirs have sold their shares. But he's now involved, Dwayne Tudor, with the vault and that kind of stuff. So that's what I'll as I go along doing the albums, I'll be working off of that as well. So Prince was given $180,000 by Warner Brothers to record his first 3 albums, and he spent just a little over $170,000 on For You, his first album. So hey, but they knew the dude was a genius. So Prince, tone it back and do the second album. And Prince did the Prince album for $35,000, which is incredibly cheap, even by today's standards. But, back then when, the rent a studio for an hour was in the thousands of dollars. I mean, I'm sure, Prince took some of the money he made off of For You and probably had, a makeshift 8-track studio in his home. I know certainly, by the controversy of I believe Prince had a functioning, studio in his home. But, he had, in order to do that, this album at $35,000, he had a maybe not, a state of the art, but a functioning, studio where he could, get a lot of the work done and then take it to a professional studio to finish it off. It took 7 weeks to do the album. Now, one of the interesting things, and I didn't find out about, this side project for Prince till about 10 years ago, but during this time, Prince recorded 7 songs for a group he called the Rebels, and it was more of a rock group, a rock sound to it. It was never released, but these songs are floating around on YouTube if you're interested. So, and Prince took more of a back seat to this, and the Rebels were a precursor to the Time and Vanity 6. And that kind of aspect that Prince loved to do with other bands. So it would have been Bobby Z, Dr. Fink, Matt Fink, Gail Chapman, who's the keyboardist, Andre Simone, and Des Dickerson. Now, interestingly enough, I mean, Andre, went solo in the 80s, and did R&B, but, he's back, Andre came back in the 2000s, and he was doing, black rock and politicized rock. So it's interesting, that, the Rebels kind of, harken back, what Andre Simone is doing now kind of harkens back to what the Rebels were up to. So yeah. So after the release of the Prince album, in early 1980, Prince, did the famous tour with Rick James, reopened for Rick. Became dubbed as the Battle of the Bands, and some pretty interesting dynamics with between Rick and Prince, and I delve into some of that. The rivalry between Rick and Prince. In some ways, they played off each other a lot, and I think, at least creativity wise, it helped both of them. But it was pretty bitter. I think Prince, respected Rick as a musician, but Rick was messed up on drugs by this time. But from February 22nd, 1980 to April 27th, 1980, they toured together. So not long, maybe 40 or 50 shows east of the Mississippi River in the U.S. That's where this tour happened. And the very first Prince concert, ever, is from Lakeland, Florida, and it's on YouTube. That's the earliest one I've come across, and I really love the Lakeland concert because he does a lot of stuff off the first album. It's the only time I've heard Just As Long As We're Together live. Prince, I've never found another version of that live. I wish he would have revisited that and kind of updated it, but he never did. He did Baby, late in his career. Obviously he did, Soft and Wet at various times, and I believe he did Soft and Wet in his, his Mammoth, I think 2004, the Montreux show. But so yeah. So anyway, that's something to check out there. Rick, claimed Prince stole his live show, and there's a lot of tension in the rivalry, and Prince would steal Rick, because Prince was opening for Rick, and so Prince would steal Rick's cat calls, and he'd come out and do the cat calls, and the audience would laugh at Rick, because it was just that toxic. So trying to remember the highlights, of the Prince Rick James rivalry. I believe it was 1982. Rick James shows up to the American Music Awards with Vanity, and we know what happened with Prince and Vanity. So Rick was with Vanity first, and Rick claims Prince stole the idea of Vanity 6 from him because he was talking about doing that. He ended up doing the Mary Jane Girls, and Prince did Vanity 6 and Apollonia 6, like both of them. I don't know who stole what, but each their own. That worked for both of them. Let's see what else. So the funniest story is, at least to me, is Rick stole Prince's synthesizers at the end of the tour, and because Prince, I guess, was pretty good at programming the synthesizers. They mostly would have been Oberheimers. That's what Prince loved back in the 80s. And so he used them to record an album, and then when he was done, he sent them back to Prince. So, intense rivalry, talk about, Prince was the rude boy persona in Dirty Mind, and Rick coined punk funk. I deal a little bit more of that in my, video Rick James and Brandy. But, lots going on between these two. But respect them both. Prince is my guy, but respect Rick James as well. Interestingly enough, Rick kind of, opened up for P-Funk, George, and literally the tour before 79, 80. I mean, Rick was the new hot thing and kind of stole the show from P-Funk, and then literally a year or two later, Prince comes along and does the same thing to Rick James. Yeah, Rick never forgave him. I think I saw Rick at a concert in 2004, 2005 before he passed, and, he's up there cussing out Prince and, using a derogatory homophobic slur that starts with an F, but so he never got over that rivalry. Tina Marie obviously was very close to Rick, but got to know Prince as well and just said, Rick could never get over it. But, part of the Prince lore is opening up for Rick James. And then, ironically, the Time gave Prince all he could handle, in the 1999 tour. And, decided not to take the Time on the road with him, for Purple Rain, and wisely so. I mean, Prince was, an elite live performer, during 1999, but, the Time weren't going to lay down and, whatever. So, and the Time they're one of the great live acts of all time too, underrated because everybody's like, oh yeah, they're just Prince proteges, but hey, Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam just got, elected into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, Morris Day's done great solo stuff not connected with Prince. Jesse Johnson's done some great solo stuff. I mean, those dudes were bad. But anyway, you know me, I get off track a little bit. So, two interesting songs, interesting side note. I Want to Be Your Lover and I Feel For You was written for Patrice Rush and Prince crossed. I think she was recording in a nearby studio in the same complex, whatever. And Prince got a little crush and wrote that song, but Patrice is like, nah. You're a little young for me, I guess. And during this tour and during this time, Prince also got his first Mad Cat, that Hohner Fender Telecaster. So, I mean, it's not Fender, the Hohner is Hohner, and it's what do you call those? A clone of a Telecaster. But, that's that wood guitar with with that purple, with black flecks, we've seen it over the years with Prince. That's the guitar, and this is the album when he first got the Mad Cat. So the album starts out with one of the Prince classics, "I Want to Be Your Lover." Classic late 70s funk soul sound. Starts off soul, ends in the funk. Hey, you're a Prince fan, that's why you're listening. You love this jam. The next song, "Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad." This is one of my all-time favorites. It's rock pop at its best, if you ask me. It's really Prince's first four-way other. I mean, "I'm Yours" off the first album. I think it's a little better done. But I do like "I'm Yours" as well. And I love the guitar solo at the end. I mean, it's not that long, but it really tops the song off, and it's a memorable solo. Song 3, "Sexy Dancer." This is really Prince's first filthy, funky workout. I love the keyboard solo, in this towards the end, and again, it makes it memorable. And this is sort of the precursor to the Prince and the Time and getting that funk outlet because, Prince couldn't, always, he couldn't be funky in every song. I mean, he's just so, had so many different ideas. And so, but, his love and his, the foundation of all his music is rooted in the funk. Next is When We're Dancing Close and Slow, and this is, in my opinion, this Prince's first great ballad. And I put it there top five. I know lyrically it's in the top five for his ballads. I know a lot of people love Adore and love those lyrics, but I mean it's amazing the lyrics coming from a 19 or 20-year old man, young man in this song. It's just beautifully written, and the acoustic guitar and the piano on this just play and dance together so well. It's a very beautiful song. Uh, it's mixed beautifully. Everything is just. I mean, this song is just might be his first just all around you know even though it's never released as a single. I think it's too long. I mean, this is 5, 6, maybe even 7 minutes long, maybe, but it's not, your 3.5 minute single. So, you can't really, edit this down so it could be a 3.5 minutes, or you ruin the song. But yeah, this is the real deal here. Um, Prince did two versions of this late in his career. One was piano based, and then with that Montreux show in 2014, he did three shows. The last show was guitar based, and he did a guitar based version of this, which was just, you know, I mean, it was amazing. Um, so yeah, this is this is the first great ballad. Prince had a lot of great ballads, but this is his first great one. Next on the album is With You, which is a good solid ballad for Prince. Song number 6, Bambi. This almost did not make the album because Prince thought it was too different from the rest of the songs on the album, but the sound engineer, Bob Mocker, liked it and convinced Prince to keep the song on the album. So, interesting tidbit. And this story's out of that book I told you about at the beginning of this episode. So thank goodness he changed Prince's mind. This is a classic Prince rock song. Little bit of conversion therapy, but Prince being a little tongue in cheek here. I mean, trying to convince a lesbian to come over to heterosexuality. Little politically incorrect these days, but Prince being Prince. He still played it late in his career. He didn't care. That's just Prince being Prince, and the sex god that he is. He probably did convert, at least temporarily, a few. Who knows? Yeah, but some great guitar work on this song. Next is song 7, Still Waiting. This is a mid-tempo ballad. Prince's, ode to doo-wop, I think, it has a little bit of the same structure. But, Prince, knew his music history, and there was some doo-wop elements to this song. This song was written for Kim Upshur, and one of Prince's first girlfriends, and Prince and Kim had a relationship throughout his life, and Kim passed away a few months before Prince. Now, if you remember, Vanity passed away before Prince, and I forget the tribute song, when Prince was doing the piano and the microphone. I think he played Little Red Corvette for Vanity. But Kim Upshur passed around the time Vanity passed. And so that was one of those deaths that really affected Prince. And he sort of felt alone, according to people close to him. So, yeah, still waiting for Kim Upshur. I Feel For You was song 8. And this is the softer, more laid-back version of I Feel For You than Shaka Khan's version, which was a smash in 1984. And finally, song number 9 is going to be Lonely. This is a deep cut that a lot of people overlook. I mean, people, with the deep cuts. A lot of Prince fans have deep cuts, but they tend not to, overlook these, For You and Prince and Dirty Mind when it comes to the deep cuts, but this is one of the best deep cuts on those 3 albums. Prince did a really nice version of this live on the Aladdin, his Las Vegas Aladdin DVD. So yeah, It's Gonna Be Lonely was on that, a live version. It was really nice, and it's probably somewhere on YouTube. So check that out. So Prince, the second album, it's a good album. It probably should have sold better. Um, you know, it is a 70s sounding album. He didn't get into, you know, the Minneapolis sound that really changed everything. That really comes with controversy. But this album is overlooked by a lot of people. But it's still a very good album because Prince is viewed as the king of the '80s, and this is a '70s album in the '70s with a '70s sound. But it's still a really good album. So. Yeah, definitely, take another look and dive into this. Yeah, so thanks for coming through. I got 5 albums. They're all here on YouTube. They're also on the streaming services under the name Exodus, Xodus. I also have 2 science fiction fantasy novels and novella on um, Amazon. So, again, thanks for coming through, and I will see you next episode.